Hey guys, this is Slyman. In today's video I'm going to be reviewing the Astronomik Clip-In Filters for Canon EOS cameras. These are actually really neat, really innovative design on these, and so let's just jump right in. What is really neat about these filters is just the way they attach to the camera. You have a little finger slot here at the top, and all you do is pull up on that and it comes right out, and it makes swapping between clip-in filters very, very easy to do. To stick a new one in, all you do is you make sure that these spring nodules here, or these plastic spring nodules here, just go in first. So you lower those into the camera body and then just gently lower the rest in and just push it down without touching it, of course, and that's it. Then of course your camera is ready to go into a telescope, or you can slip on a lens and you're good to go. Now, one thing you do have to be aware of is when you use Canon EFS lenses, they won't work with an Astronomik Clip-In filter. So you can't use them. Notice if I try and put in this EFS lens, it will not connect. So they don't work. However, if you use EF lenses, they go in just fine. So just make sure you don't use Canon EFS lenses if you intend on using Astronomik Clip-In filters, because they won't work. Another really nice thing about the clip-in filters is they actually block your sensor from getting dust on it. Now obviously you want to prevent dust from getting on the filter too, but it is an added benefit that it does protect your imaging sensor. One of the most popular clip-in filters that Astronomik probably sells is the CLS filter. Now CLS stands for City Light Suppression, so it's a light pollution filter. And this filter is awesome for getting longer exposure astrophotographs. Basically what it does is it mainly cuts out the sodium and mercury wavelengths that come from street lamps. So if you live in an area that has a lot of street lights contributing to a lot of light pollution, this filter will cut out most of that sodium and mercury wavelength. Now obviously there potentially could be a little bit of those wavelengths coming from an astronomical source, so it will cut those out as well, but it's definitely a sacrifice that is beneficial because your exposure times are way longer. Here is an image of the Orion Nebula that I actually took in a pretty light polluted area. And because it was so light polluted, I could only expose for about 20 to 30 seconds is all. Not a ton of detail. Now throw on the CLS filter here, and the difference is quite amazing, especially in the Running Man Nebula. You can see a lot more detail there with 1 minute, I think these were 1 minute 30-second exposures, so 90-second exposures compared to 30-second exposures. Pulls out a lot more detail in the nebula. So the CLS filter is actually really great for increasing your light pollution, or increasing your exposure times due to cutting out the light pollution. Now they do make two versions of the CLS. This is the CLS-CCD filter. Now why do you want to get the CCD version over just the normal version? Well, it depends on if your camera is modified or not. So if you have a full spectrum modified DSLR camera, you're basically opening up the camera to the entire spectrum of light. So infrared can come in, ultraviolet can come in, everything can come in pretty much. So you have to filter out what you don't want. So obviously you don't want the light pollution, so you put in the CLS filter, but you also don't want infrared, especially if you're using a refractor, because infrared light focuses at a different location than the visible light. So your images could look out of focus if you let in infrared. So the CCD is basically an infrared cut filter. It cuts out everything past the normal red wavelength. So if you have a full spectrum modified DSLR, you'll want to get the CCD versions of the clip-in filters. If you don't, or if you have an Astro modified DSLR that already has an infrared filter, you can get the normal version. Now my personal favorite Astronomik clip-in filter is the ProPlanet 742 nanometer infrared filter. In fact, it's pretty much in my camera all the time because I like it so much. They make various IR filters from 642 nanometers to the 742. They even make one that's 807 nanometers. But this one is pretty much perfect for me because you can image the planets in a lot more detail, and you can do terrestrial photography, which is primarily what I do with my infrared filter. I'm not sure if you've seen infrared photos or not, especially in nature where you have like a nice lake and some trees, but the contrast is really amazing. Flora, plants, they'll give off a nice white color in infrared, whereas like water is kind of like a darker, more sulky color. And with some processing of the data in Photoshop, you can really make infrared images quite beautiful, and they're really, really sharp because you're cutting out a lot of the shorter wavelengths. Infrared is a longer wavelength, so it's actually a little bit sharper, and so you can do some really amazing things with an infrared filter. A couple of last things. Astronomik makes these to be very scratch resistant and very durable. And there wouldn't be a point to doing that if you shipped it in a dusty package or something like that. But they actually ship these in really nice foam packages. They're not going to get dusty or scratched or anything, so they stand the test of time. They're really solid filters, pretty innovative in the design, so really just a great job from Astronomik through and through. Alright, well that is my review of the Astronomik Clip-In Filters for Canon EOS cameras. If you're looking to cut out a specific wavelength from your images or take an image in a specific wavelength, you may want to consider looking at the Astronomik Clip-In Filters. So thanks so much for watching and have a good one.